Here's something almost nobody tells you about roses, and once you know it, the whole rest of your season makes sense. A rosebud doesn't appear overnight. From the moment a cut is made on a stem, it takes a repeat blooming rose somewhere between 6 and 7 weeks to push new growth, form a bud, swell it, and open it. 6 to 7 weeks. That's the engine speed. You can't rush it and you can't skip it. So do the math with me. Today is the last week of July. 6 weeks from right now is the second week of September, which means the flowers you'll be standing in front of on that first cool morning in September, the ones that finally look right because the brutal heat has broken, those flowers are being decided this week. Not in August, not in September, right now, by what you do or don't do to that plant in the next 7 days. And that's the frustrating part, isn't it? Most people don't touch their roses in late July. It's hot, the first big flush is long gone, the plant looks tired and leggy and a little sad, and it's easy to just leave it alone until things cool off. But leaving it alone in late July is exactly how you end up with a rose that limps into autumn with 3 sad blooms and a pile of yellow leaves at its feet. So in this video, I'm giving you 7 jobs to finish before the month ends. 7 specific physical tasks in the order I do them, with the reasoning underneath each one so you understand what you're actually manipulating inside the plant. Some of these will contradict what you did back in May, and I'll explain exactly why the same action has a different answer in July than it did in spring. Grab your pruners, and let's go plant by plant. Task 1. Cut shallow, not deep. Start with deadheading, but not the way you did it in June. In late spring, the standard advice is to follow the spent bloom down the stem and cut just above the first leaf with 5 leaflets, sometimes even the second one, because that's where the cane is thick enough to support a strong new shoot. That advice is correct in May. It is wrong right now. Here's why. Every inch of stem you remove is stem the plant has to rebuild before it can even think about making a bud. A deep cut in May costs you nothing because you've got the whole summer ahead. A deep cut on the 25th of July costs you 2 to 3 extra weeks on the front end of that 6-week cycle. And now your September flush has quietly slid into October, where the first frost is waiting for it. So cut shallow. Snap or clip the spent bloom off right at the top of the stem, just above the first healthy leaf you come to, even if it's a 3-leaflet leaf. You're taking off an inch, maybe 2. That's it. The bud eye sitting in that leaf axil is already formed and ready, and it starts moving almost immediately instead of waiting for the plant to rebuild lost cane. One important exception before you start snipping everything in sight. If your rose bloomed once, gloriously in early summer, and hasn't produced a single bud since, that's likely a once-blooming old garden rose or a species rose, and deadheading it now does absolutely nothing for blooms. It only removes the hips. Leave those alone and enjoy the autumn color. Everything in this video applies to repeat bloomers, your hybrid teas, floribundas, shrub roses, modern landscape roses, and most climbers. Quick one if you actually want a step-by-step guide for all this. Maybe your plant's struggling or you just can't get it to bloom. I put every fix into one cheat sheet. You get everything in my Plant Fix and Bloom cheat sheet. It's the first link in the description. Let's continue. Task 2. Deal with the blind shoots. Now go looking for something most gardeners walk right past. Somewhere on your rose is a shoot that grew up tall and healthy, full of good leaves, and then just stopped. No bud at the tip, no flower. It just tapers off into a little blunt point or a tiny withered nub. That's called a blind shoot, and by late July, a stressed rose can be carrying half a dozen of them. Blind shoots happen when the growing tip gets interrupted. Heat, a hungry aphid, a hard water swing, a late cold snap earlier in the season. The plant kept building the stem but abandoned the flower. And critically, that shoot will never produce a bloom. It's finished. It will sit there for the rest of the year holding leaves and drinking resources and giving you nothing. The fix is simple and it takes 30 seconds. Follow the blind shoot down about half its length until you find a plump, healthy bud eye in a leaf axil. You're looking for a small reddish or green swelling right where a leaf meets the stem. Cut just above it on a slight angle and choose an eye that points outward, away from the center of the plant. That bud is being held dormant by the shoot tip above it. Remove the tip and you release it, and within days it will break and grow, and this time, because the plant is in active bloom mode, it will carry a flower. That's a bloom you would not have gotten otherwise, from wood you already own. Do this across the whole plant and you can easily add 5, 6, 8 extra flowers to your September show. Task 3. Make this your last nitrogen feed. This one is about timing, and I want you to actually work out your own number rather than take mine. Find your average first frost date. Now count backwards 6 to 8 weeks. That's your nitrogen cutoff, the last day you can safely give a rose a high nitrogen feed. For a lot of gardeners, that lands somewhere between the end of July and the middle of August, which is exactly why we're having this conversation now. Nitrogen tells a rose to build soft green tissue. Feed it too late and the plant obediently pushes out tender new canes in September that have no chance of hardening off before the cold arrives. Those canes blacken, die back, and give disease an open door into the plant over winter. That's the whole reason for the cutoff. So if your cutoff hasn't passed, feed now and feed properly. A balanced granular rose food worked lightly into the top inch of soil, then watered in deeply, because dry fertilizer sitting on dry soil does nothing but burn roots. If you'd rather use a liquid feed, that's fine, and it acts faster, but you'll want to repeat it more often. And then, after this feed, switch your thinking. From here on, if you feed at all, you want potassium rather than nitrogen. Potassium is the one that firms up cell walls, ripens the canes, and improves both bloom color and cold hardiness. Nitrogen makes a rose grow. Potassium makes a rose finish. Right now, you want it to finish. Task 4. Reset the mulch and cool the roots. Go put your hand flat on the soil at the base of your rose in the middle of the afternoon. If it's hot to the touch, you've found the reason your rose stopped blooming. Rose feeder roots, the fine white ones near the surface that do almost all the actual absorbing, become inefficient when soil temperature climbs high, and in the top few inches of a bare, sun-baked bed in late July, it climbs very high. The plant isn't refusing to bloom because it's ungrateful, it literally cannot take up enough water and nutrients to build a flower, so it throttles back and prioritizes survival. So reset the mulch. First, scratch at the existing layer. If it's compacted into a crust, or if you pour water on it and the water beads up and runs sideways instead of soaking in, that mulch has gone hydrophobic, and it's now shedding your irrigation rather than holding it. Break it up with a hand fork. Then top up to a good 3 inches of coarse organic mulch. Shredded bark, composted wood chips, straw, whatever you use, spread evenly out to the drip line, which is wider than most people mulch. Keep it pulled back a couple of inches from the base of the plant itself. Piling mulch against the crown traps moisture there and invites rot right at the most vulnerable point on the whole rose. 3 inches of mulch can pull the root zone temperature down meaningfully and cut evaporation dramatically. It is the single highest return 20 minutes you'll spend on this plant all month. Task 5. Intercept spider mites before August. Hot, dry, dusty weather is exactly what spider mites have been waiting for, and late July is when their population goes vertical. Here's how to check, because you almost certainly won't spot the mites themselves. Look at the lower inner leaves, the shaded ones closest to the center of the plant. If they've gone dull and faintly bronze or gray, sort of stippled with tiny pale dots like someone dusted them with pepper, turn one over. Fine webbing in the leaf joints confirms it. The fix costs nothing. Spider mites hate water and they hate humidity. Take a hose with a firm spray, get the nozzle underneath the plant and blast the undersides of the foliage, undersides specifically because that's where they live. Do it early in the morning so the leaves dry fast, and repeat it 3 mornings in a row to catch the ones hatching from eggs the first pass missed. And here's the part that matters most.
Do not reach for a broad-spectrum insecticide right now. Spider mites reproduce far faster than the predatory mites and lacewings that eat them, so a broad spray kills the predators. The mites bounce back within days into an environment with nothing hunting them, and you get an infestation worse than the one you started with. Water and patience genuinely beat chemicals here. Task 6. Protect every leaf you have left. I want you to stop thinking of rose leaves as decoration and start thinking of them as fuel tanks. Every single one of those September blooms is going to be built from sugar manufactured by leaves that are on the plant right now. A rose that loses half its foliage to black spot in August physically cannot fund a big autumn flush. It's not a cosmetic problem, it's an energy problem. So do a leaf triage today. Pull off every leaf showing those fringed black blotches with the yellow halo around them, and pick up every fallen infected leaf from the soil surface, because that's where the spores overwinter and splash back up. Bin them, don't compost them. Then change how you water, because black spot needs roughly 7 hours of continuous leaf wetness to germinate a spore. Water at the base of the plant, never over the top, and water in the morning rather than the evening, so anything that does get splashed dries within the hour. That one change alone stops most new infection. If your rose is packed tight in the middle, thin out 2 or 3 of the weakest, twiggiest inner stems as well. Air moving through the canopy dries leaves faster, and dry leaves don't get infected. Task 7. Stop stacking stress. The last job is a job of restraint, and it's the one most enthusiastic gardeners fail. Your rose is currently running heat stress, drought stress, and a full bloom cycle simultaneously. It has no spare capacity. So for the next several weeks, don't transplant it, don't repot it, don't hard prune it, don't cut long-stemmed flowers for the vase. Take short stems and leave the leaves on the plant. And don't let it swing between bone dry and flooded. That water rhythm is the big one. Push your finger 2 inches into the soil. If it's dry at the fingertip, water long and slow and deep, ideally 15 to 20 liters delivered slowly at the base so it soaks down rather than running off. Then leave it until the 2-inch test says dry again. Erratic watering is the direct cause of buds that form and then drop, and of those fat buds that go brown and never open. Consistency is what a rose is asking for right now, more than anything else you can give it. So that's your list. Cut shallow, release the blind shoots, take your last nitrogen feed, reset the mulch, wash the mites off, defend the leaves, and then get out of the plant's way. Do those 7 things before the month closes, and I'll see you back here in 6 weeks looking at a very different plant. Tell me one thing in the comments. What's your average first frost date? Drop it below, because that single number changes the timing on half of what we just covered, and I read every one of them. And if you'd like the rest of the season handled the same way, don't forget to subscribe.